Hey guys, it's Otto. What's going on? Somebody gave great suggestions on how to improve this camera setup, but the little feet that the camera's on isn't high enough to get those panels symmetric with the shot. It's frustrating, but we'll figure it out. All right, so Excellent Audio reached out to me and they were wondering if I wanted to play around with their drums. And I thought, why not? I love drums. You can never have enough virtual drum sets. So as you might know, I had a video come out recently which was called If Electric Wizard Sound Like Sleep. So I took their song Funeral Palace and sleepified it with a little bit of Holy Mountain magic and a little bit of Jerusalem magic. So I downloaded Excellent Audio's Addictive Drums and gave them a shot, and I love them. I love them. First of all, it's very easy to install their drums. It's so easy to do. And not only that, their user interface is dead simple. And it's really fun. There's all kinds of presets you can play around with, all kinds of lo-fi stuff. Excellent Audio really does their drum stuff right. They're really damn good. So Peter from Excellent Audio, also a member of the legendary Lowrider band. If you don't know, check him out. A big influence to my fuzz rock journey. So Peter from Lowrider and Excellent Audio suggested to dig into the United Heavy, Black Velvet, and Retroplex drum kits. So I opened those up, played around with them, and I was just flabbergasted. The thing about my virtual drum workflow is that I like to layer drums together. I do this all the time. This was a thing that was hammered into my head when I went to audio school. I was told that when you layer things together, they sound more realistic. So I still go by that. I took all the suggestions that Peter had and put them all into one drum kit, and it sounds huge. So I'll just show you what I did with the drums here. Let's look at the session. We've got quite a lot of drums here, as you can see. They're color-coded as this kind of purple thing. So we're going to go to the beginning, and we've got 3 layers of drums. Let's listen first. Kind of this dry Holy Mountain vibe. That's what I was trying to go for in the beginning. So the first drum kit we have, I called Drums Lo-Fi. So what I did was I selected a kit, and with an EQ, I did some adjustments. I took out some highs, took out some lows. And another thing I did with this was add a compressor. So I'm using the FabFilter Pro C2. And the reason I used this was to dig out some of those very quiet hits that you can't hear very well in the mix. So kind of digging those out. Another go-to thing for me with drums is to dig out the transients. And there's a great little plugin called Transient Master, which looks like this. It's just a simple little compressor which you can use to boost the attack, so the transients, and maybe you want to do a quick kind of a squish to the drums and dig out some of that sustain, so you just use the sustain knob. This is a great little tool. I use this all the time. So let's look at the actual drum kit though. Let's open up Addictive Drums 2. And let's see, I kind of just open things up and play around with them. So I don't really remember what I did particularly with this stuff. But from what I remember, I took out the kind of bottom sound of the snare. I didn't want to have that high mid kind of a buzz sound, so I took that out. So mostly I played around with the snare, probably did some EQing here, and I'm pretty sure that I played with the room sound. I think I kind of wanted a little bit of that room sound for the start. And the kit itself I used was the United Heavy kit. Rumbling floor. Another thing I did with the snare was adjust the pitch. So lowering the pitch to make it have a big smacking sound. Let's see. Then there's the kick. I played around with the Pork Pie Custom kick. I'm really liking how that sounds. And that's about it for this one. So this one solo, it sounds like this. Yeah. And then I made this drums sublayer, which is basically one of these drum kits that I've made into its own track to emphasize the low end. The way I usually do this is with a signal generator. So with signal generator, I'll take a low tone and then I'll adjust it so that it comes in every time the kick is there to get very low rumblage. So this time I did it like this. I just chose some kind of a drum kit. It's the United Heavy again. And the main thing I've done is adjustments with the EQ. So let's look at that. Yeah, just took out all the high end and emphasized the low end here. I might as well add that FabFilter's Pro Q3 is a great EQ. The reason it's really good is because it has a spectrum analyzer. You can see all the low-end information, and then you can choose what you want to boost by just looking at it and listening, of course. You don't want to just look, you got to listen. So there you can see this going on. Lastly, I have a track called Drums Vintage Compressed, and what that is again, Addictive Drums with the Retroplex kit. I've just kind of put that in the background and I guess compressed the living hell out of it. Let's hear it. Yeah, the very flabby sounding kick, I love it. So that's the beginning. And then we get into the heavy territory. So here we still use the same tracks we did in the intro, but there's just 2 more additional tracks. The first one is called Drums Punchy, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a drum kit with punchier transients. It's more dry. Let's listen to that. Yeah, very punchy. And lastly, we have Drums Roomy, which is a roomy sounding kit. Yeah, good stuff. And what I've done here is I've boosted the room a lot, probably adjusted the overheads quite a bit, and again, tuned down the snare, done a little bit of EQing. If not in the Addictive Drums plugin itself, I'll do it with Pro Q3 or the stock Pro Tools EQ. One last thing that comes to mind is I'll turn down the hi-hat mic quite a bit on all of these kits so it's not in your face so much. So here's how the whole drum set sounds. One thing to note when you're doing sludgy kind of drums, when you listen to your references, you might notice that lots of bands don't have a lot of high end on their overheads or things like that. So it's good to have references so you're not making a ultra bright mix. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that because there's all kinds of stoner rock and sludge music out there. So there's a generalization, but regardless, references are great. So the main purpose of this video was to show you the drums, but I've got to show you a little bit of the guitars and bass too. I know you guys are going to be asking about it. So let's look at the bass. We'll just listen to it first. It's the intro bass. Yeah, kind of not a lot of distortion, very mid-based. The way this one came about was with Guitar Rig 5. They have the Bass Pro amp, and I've duplicated it. There's 2 of them. So that's really cool. Pretty simple sound, not a lot of drive. But then we get into the heavy stuff, and here we have 2 bass tracks. It's actually not that great of a sound, but it sounded good in the mix. Sometimes it's about that. It's a cool sound, but it's not exactly sleep. This sounds more like kind of a very lo-fi, broken speaker kind of a distortion. I think the reason for that is because the second bass track has the driver. Yep, that's right. The Native Instruments driver plug, and I love it, but this can easily make your guitar or bass sounds be just out of this world distorted. The guitars in the intro, clean, and I like the hiss that's there. Again, Guitar Rig 5. This one's one Marshall. I duplicated it in case I want the ultra heaviness. That's probably what I did in the heavy tracks. The other clean one is this high white amp, and just I like to sometimes blend different amps together. It's kind of fun. Then we got the heavy stuff. There's basically like 4 guitars going on at once. For some reason, I have 2 guitars that are on the right. You know, it sounds good, so it doesn't matter. So this is what that sounds like. Yeah, it's good. So I use the Hotplex amps with the sleep heavy tone. I like to duplicate those. The volumes are maxed, and that's where the distortion comes out of. And as I mentioned the driver earlier, I use that too. So not only do I have two of these amps with crank distortion, I also use the driver. So the other guitar has, yeah, this one has two Marshalls, no driver on this, and then the other ones are these kinds of extra sounds. We got a lo-fi, right? Sounds good. And then we got this guitar center track. Yeah, the driver again. This is a really good plugin. I love the driver. Maybe I'll show a little bit of the vocals. These were pretty quick ones. There's no aux kind of stuff or anything. Everything's just slapped into the insert. It's just a bunch of plugins. Yeah, the vocals have been doubled. There's a bunch of delay. There's reverb. There's a little bit of de-esser to get rid of the sharp S's. I've used a very extreme compressor from Waves H-Comp. I still use Waves H-Comp even though I've got the FabFilter compressor now, but I just like it. There's some really cool, nasty, distorted vibes that it makes to your track sometimes. So I still dig the H-Comp. And that's about it. That's the session. I hope you learned something, and I hope you also enjoyed this interesting cover. It was kind of really fun to construct. I'm a huge fan of Electric Wizard and Sleep, and it's always fun to dive into the realm of doom. And thanks to Excellent Audio for giving me this opportunity to play around with your drums. It's a lot of fun. I love your drums. They're incredible. I'll be using them a lot in the future. So anyway, if you like videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel. You can click on the bell thing to get notified when videos come out. And this is important. Videos are coming out every Saturday, 8 p.m. Finish time. Videos left and right. Goodbye.